Yes, yes, yes. That was so bad. I was talking with my mic mute. Uh, let's talk about it's a good segue for the topic we're going to talk to you about creating great technical video content. Um, Technology is hard. So I was saying, hello, lovely people. Welcome to the dev. That's ridiculous. But it doesn't beat the one time I was doing a live stream at Cube First, and I forgot to press go live. So the first we had to redo the first 10 minutes of the show with my guest. I was a little bit ashamed, so at least we were live with no sound. So again, welcome, beautiful people, to the Devrel show. It's a different day, different time today. But as you know, I try to do those on Thursday, 3 p.m. my time, Eastern time. But I always adjust with my guest time zone, but also my schedule. Because on Thursday, I'm going to be in direction to the airport to go to Berlin for CIVO Navigate. So, by the way, if you are in Berlin, let me know. I may have a little bit of free time to meet some local friends. And even better, if you go to CIVO Navigate, it's going to be an amazing conference. I've been there, the last one in North America. So they alternate one in North America, one in Europe, and they change places, which is pretty cool too. Next one's in Berlin. It's been a while, didn't go there. Love the place. Anyway, if you are at CIVO Navigate, please let me know. But again, welcome to the show. Hopefully, you're going to be able to join us live, even if I change the schedule a little bit for this episode. And if not, as I was saying before when my mic was mute, I'm still welcoming you to the show, even if you watch the recording, because there's a recording. You can watch the show later. So, on that note, I will stop babbling about things, and I would like to welcome Ryan to the show. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks,
How's
Fred.
life?
Mate, life's pretty hectic at the moment. Moved house a few days ago, so getting everything set up and work's a bit crazy. But mate, I'm good, and I'm happy to be chatting with you.
I totally feel you. I mean, like every people's situation is different, but moving is moving. And I moved to a new place about 3 months ago, and I forgot how much work it is to move to a new place. It is crazy.
Yeah, it's just like packing the boxes just never seems to end. But yeah, at least we're here now, and it's definitely easier to like unpack as opposed to pack. So yeah, we're,
It
we're
is.
making good progress.
It's so much fun. Like I actually maybe not fun, but like I really prefer to unpack. And this is where I take the time to like see if I want to keep things, if I want to, if things are not good enough, if I throw them in the garbage, or if I sell them, or if I give them to people. Like I know some people do this before to put things in the boxes. For me, I put everything in boxes, and after that, when I have the time, when I'm at new place, I take the time to do that. But you know what? I was really I did the king and queen moving type of things where someone came to my place and they made the boxes for me. So it was like a all inclusive thing,
Wow.
and I still felt it was a lot of work. So yeah, I didn't have the time this year to like do all the boxes and everything. So I went with the luxury moving stuff. I unpacked my things though, but I just didn't have the time to box things. And you know what? Now it's going to be really hard to like the day I'm going to move again, which will probably happen. You know, it's live. Having to do my own boxes after I had like a team of like three incredible women that came to my place in a couple of hours. Everything were was in boxes, and you know, like very well put. Like for me, I would have put like a bunch of things in the box and probably broke a lot of things. For
Yeah.
them, there was like you know the real deal. Anyway, it's not a show about moving. I just wanted to echo that. Yeah, it's a kind of like a pain in the ass, but hopefully, it's always for the better. When you move to a new place, you're just like to your new home. You feel,
Mm.
you feel at home. Hopefully, already. Like even if you started to unbox a little bit of things. So yeah. With that said, Ryan, first, thanks again for being on the show. Actually, thanks for the first time publicly being on the show. Especially because for me, if I was at your place, it would be way too early. So Ryan is in Australia, so it's like 8 a.m. for him. I feel like it's too early to do a live stream, but it seems like it's good for you. So thanks for being on the show. Really, really appreciate that. And
Yeah,
speaking of that, I
no
lost you
worries.
a little bit right now, and you're back.
Okay. Yep. The joys of moving house and not yet having your internet hooked up.
I
So
know.
it's tethering all the way this morning.
Yeah, thanks for joining while tethering. So, folks, if we lost Ryan once in a while, no worries. It's still going to be with us. It's just like tethering. Actually, it's good that you can do that. Where I move, I cannot tether. Like there is no signal whatsoever. So if my internet goes down, if I don't have internet, I cannot do the Devrel show. So again, thanks for doing that. With that said, Ryan, for the people that don't know you, tell us a little more about who you are.
All right. The dreaded question. So I'll give you a little bit of personal and a bit of professional stuff. So on the personal side, I love playing music. I love, hanging out with friends and family. I've also got a passion for motorcycles. So I try and sort of balance the professional stuff with some personal stuff. Drums is my musical instrument. And a few weeks ago, I actually got back from a 6-week tour in Europe, which has been one of my dreams to go tour internationally. And that was an absolute ball. Although I think I'm still sort of recovering from the beer and the late nights and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, music is something that I love doing. On the professional side, I worked as a developer for about 10 years, and I still love code. I still do that. But what got me into Devrel was when I was working in teams, and I sort of noticed that sometimes there's a disparity between the folks that intimately know the stack and maybe have more experience and some of the junior folks on the team. And often junior folks don't necessarily have the courage to speak up and ask some, questions to kind of let people know that maybe there's things they don't understand. So that was where my sort of passion for documentation and knowledge sharing, came from. And then that sort of naturally led to speaking at meetups, to then teaching courses on iOS and web development and DevOps and things like that. And eventually what got me into Devrel was transitioning from running my own business doing that to then working at a company and essentially doing a lot of that same stuff. So producing content, doing webinars, just because I'd never done that for a job. And it was just something I sort of stumbled into. And I feel like with Devrel, that's the way it goes for a lot of folks. They don't necessarily set out to get a Devrel job or have a Devrel career. It's just something that ends up aligning with their passions.
Yeah.
And then, they sort of go into it from there. So in terms of where I am right now, at the end of 22, I stopped working for my previous company and I decided to freelance to focus on, the favorite aspect of my job, which was the content. I'm sure a lot of, if there's other Devrels listening, they can relate to, particularly when you're in an early stage startup. Devrel is anything and everything to do with customers. And it's not that I didn't enjoy that. Like that's also part of what I love about Devrel. You can do customer success one moment, you're updating the docs the next, you're presenting the moment after that. But I really wanted to sort of double down on my video presentation skills, my voiceover skills, and just writing as well. So that's what I've been doing for the past 18 months or so. And that pretty much brings us to where we are today.
That is the amazing intro. Actually, you answered like 4 or 5 questions that I had about like your journey all in the intro. So I'm loving that. Question that is not about your career. I'm just curious. I didn't know that. What kind of music are you doing?
So it's like a blend between hard rock and metal, I guess I'd say. So very, very Australian flavored rock, but we're all metalheads at heart. So we try and get a mix between the heavier stuff, but also the rockier stuff, because the rocky stuff sort of appeals to a wider audience. And one of my favorite things about the band, it's actually a bit of a weird name. It's called Pistonfist. Piston is sort of like a reference to cars. So it's music that would appeal to car heads and bikies and stuff like that. But yeah, the lyrics are about things that matter, like men's mental health, suicide prevention, doing your best,
Wow.
that kind of stuff. So that's what I really like about music. It's not just about, banging the drums and playing heavy music. It's kind of going with that energy of putting something positive out into the world. Because when it's kind of like, presenting, actually, when you're playing drums and you see people get into it and they're having a great time, for me, like that's the ultimate feeling. And I think that's in line with kind of like Devrel as well. When you do a video and you know that this is going to help someone do their job better, maybe even progress in their career, like that's the thing that motivates me and what I'm thinking about when I'm doing these videos. So I try and sort of make it about the audience and what they're going to get out of it, instead of me, which also helps me be, slightly less self-conscious when I'm, presenting as well.
I love that. I love that, and I love that you also use your passion and creating music to like help people and share a message, like not just like get listener, but like really like use that platform you have to, yeah, as I said, share that message and like hopefully help people. So that's all in your honor to do something like that. About last question about the music, like if we go on your website, ryanblunden.dev, do we have links to uh, YouTube, like the music YouTube channel or something, if people are curious?
I don't actually. I haven't thought of bringing those worlds together. But if people just search for Pistonfist, it's all one word, pistonfist.com, then they'll be able to find, videos and all that sort of stuff, links to Spotify, all that.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's called a Devrel show, but it's really like whatever Fred wants show to talk about. And I'm always curious. I remember one show where we talk about Lego for a while because my guest has like those huge Lego on the back, and I was like, "That's amazing collection." It was like, "Yeah, that's just one small part of it." And we started to talk about that. It was not even developer relation, but at the same time, you know what? It's a little bit developer relation because like developer relation
Mm,
is all about the human, it's all about the person, it's all about creating connection, and we cannot create
mm,
connection always and just about technology. It's about the people, it's about their passion, it's about who they are. So talking about like Lego, talking about music, talking about what is like part of people's life or the guest life, I think it's interesting too, but
mm.
that's only my point of view. If we go back to your journey, now you are a freelancer, you are a technical content creator, or at Ryan Blunden dev. So can you tell me a little more about exactly like what you do? By the way, I've seen some of your videos, and I think I'm really bad at that thing, but I think we connected through a coffee chat. You scheduled a
Mm.
coffee chat with me, and after that I went to watch your videos, and I was like, man, you need to be on the show. I mean, like I really love the quality of the content that you're making. And yeah, so speaking about that, this is what you're doing for a little more than a year now, if I'm not wrong, like close to 2 years.
Yeah.
How is the business going? How is life on that side?
Yeah. So freelance always has, its challenges, and anyone that's done that, sort of knows what I'm talking about. But the benefit of freelance as well is that you can kind of go after the segment of the market and the work like that you want to do. And video really is my passion. I'm not sure why. It's just one of those things that I like, working on my ability to, communicate, working on my voiceover skills. I've always enjoyed that for some reason. Not saying I've got great voiceover skills, but it's just, yeah, it's a challenge that just appeals to me for some reason. In terms of the work I do, it's really varied, and as the business goes on, it gets even more varied. So, for instance, I typically started out with educational style videos, and I must say they're my favorite, because it's a lot easier to sort of be, more natural when you're just teaching someone
Hmm.
something. When you're getting into that area where I mean, with Devrel, when you're doing it, speaking to a technical audience, it's at the heart, it's always educational. Because if you come on and too strong and you're doing the marketing buzzwords and the
Yeah,
overly
not gonna
emotional
work.
language, developers see that and they smell marketing a mile away, and they're gone. So you have to find a way of educating, but you're really just trying to let the product showcase itself, so they understand why it's good. I always try and think of putting a promotional video together in the same way that you would demo something like at a conference. So you're not, giving them a spiel, or hopefully you're not just giving them a spiel. You're sort of like, you're sitting next to them and you're saying, hey, like, let me just show you like how it works. And when you're showing certain things, you'll emphasize to them, why that's a handy feature, in case that, they don't really know as much about the domain and the product as you do. So I think that's what I love about video as well, is if you've got a website that's got lots of copy, it's hard to create that copy in a more conversational way. Like, it needs to be punchy. It kind of needs to be a bit markety, I guess. But with video, you've got that ability to sort of make that human connection. And because you can demonstrate the product, the language that you use to describe the product is just a lot more natural. And so, yeah, I kind of like that challenge of making developer content, but making developer content that's not gross, that doesn't just turn a technical audience off. And I think that's why I get the work that I get, because a lot of companies, or they tell me that they've gone to agencies, and the agencies do their best. They're very good at things like copywriting, but they struggle explaining the more technical aspects. And with my developer background, that's something that's a lot easier for me to do.
Yeah, and as much as I believe that in some situation, a more marketing driven or more dry to the fact type of content makes sense, I would say if you really want to connect with the developer audience, you need that human side. You need that like connection. Again, it's always about connection. You need that connection. You need to like, when we talk about that, like you have your personality that is on the screen, that is like in the video, and I feel like it helps to like talk about different technology to help people like educate themselves about those technologies. So I think it makes more sense to have someone like you, a developer advocate, create that kind of content, because it's I don't know, I just have the word, it's less dry than like a pure tutorial, no human face, like just like images or demo with the voiceover. Like if you have a face, I think it adds to the experience. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, totally. One thing that always amazed me as well is at Doppler, I remember one of the engineers that joined, he literally said, like, I applied for the job because of one of my videos, because of the enthusiasm I sort of had for the product. And so I think that human connection also comes from, like, if you're demonstrating something and you have to be obviously be genuinely, excited and genuinely like the product and what it does, but it can attract all sort of people, because if someone's passionate about something, that sends a very positive signal to your viewer saying, well, if they're this passionate about it, it must be a good product, or they must like working at the company. So yeah, there's so many benefits to video.
And how do you deal? Okay, let me step back. As a developer advocate, in my case, I have an employer and I have 1, 2, maybe 3 product that I own. Uh, it's my full-time job, so it's easy for me to learn about that product, to become an expert in that product, or it's easier, let's say, because those are my only focus, and really be excited, hopefully, I hope, because I decided to work there and I'm excited about things. In your case, as a freelancer or having your business where you have like different contracts with different companies, how do you deal with that part where, yeah, you have to learn about a new product more often than I have to, and you have to get excited, but it's at the same time it's a contract with a limited time or limited duration or a limited like end goal of what you have to do, versus me, unless like until they kick me out because they don't want to work with me anymore, or I don't want to work with them anymore. That's going to be my only focus. So I don't know if my question makes sense. It made a lot of sense when I was thinking about it, but like how do you deal with that like transition, because especially because of the genuine aspect, the no bullshit aspect of like what we do when we create content and that human connections. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and it's the scripting process and getting familiar with the product to the point where I can talk about it, as if it's my own, is very difficult. At the moment, the majority of the content I'm doing is really just like scripting for other folks and guiding them, and sometimes doing voiceovers. Because oftentimes, companies don't necessarily want like me as the face of the video, but when it comes to writing blog posts, because that's something that I do as well, and a lot of stuff is ghost written for the same reason. So it is incredibly challenging to jump into a domain that you're not familiar with, to get intimately familiar with the product in a way that you can speak to it like you've been working there for a long time. And to do that while still, being profitable is a huge challenge.
I think I lost you, Ryan.
And that's the thing that is. Oh no,
we lost you after you said like it's a big challenge and like being profitable. So if you want to finish what you were saying right after.
Yeah. So essentially, that's the most challenging part of the process. So it's absorbing the information and then being able to write about it as if you've been working at the company. So that's what I'm working on. Yeah, the most.
Oh, awesome. And I assume it's someone that you know you already, but Jason Rondo was saying like rhinos, which mean I assume it's your nickname, got that thing that draws you in. It's a spirit, energy, thoughtfulness, accent, and air. I mean, I'm jealous of that. Like, I miss that part of me, and I'm really jealous.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Jason. We worked together a while ago, probably about 14 years ago. That's great. Thanks, mate.
That's a great statement. Like, when you have that kind of impact on someone and like they still share like those kind of things about you after all this time, it's a good sign that like, you're the kind of person you want to work with, which is also a good sign for like potential customer for you, like seeing like comments like that. I think it's just nice, but I think it's also like what everything Jason listed. I think it's also what makes you good at what you do, like your energy, like the spirit you put in what your accent. I mean, let's be honest, like Australian accent is pretty nice compared to my like French speaking Canadian guy trying to speak in English. I mean, like there's something that, at least for me in North America, like your accent is a little bit like exotic-ish. And it feels like more professional. Like you also have like it's true, you do voiceovers. You also have like a I don't know how to say that in English, but like a deep voice, but not too deep, like just the right level of deep, if I can say that. That feels that makes you feel comfortable. It's weird. I feel like I'm flirting with you right now, but like it's true about the accent thing. I feel like it's great for what you're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like obviously this is my natural voice, but when you start on the journey of video and voiceovers, and I really encourage like everyone to give this a try. Like even if it's not something that you ever publish, the personal journey of learning like how to present something that's natural, but when you're that you're mindful of how you speak and how you pace what you speak and your articulation. It's just such a valuable skill that will help you in your work, when you're communicating things in any environment. And on the voice thing, like when I started this, I was lucky to get some coaching from a media person, and she started off just going, okay, just present to me, and it was something like, hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do this. And she cut me off and she's like, please stop. In this day and age, you're not trying to be a radio presenter. You're not trying to be a newscaster. Maybe 10, 15 years ago before YouTube, people sort of expected that front. But she said, it's got to be you. And probably the most valuable thing we did, like, we worked on technique and things like that. But the most valuable thing is, she said, like, we've got to figure out like who you are in order for you to work out how you're going to communicate. and how you're going to speak and how you're going to be on camera. And so we kind of went through things, and some people are really funny, so they can lean into the humorous part of their personality. For me, and she was sort of saying, like, what are your values? Like, what do you like doing? Like, why do you even want to do video? And I said, well, at the core of it, like, I just love helping people, because tech is difficult. And when you've got someone that can explain something like succinctly and knows how to explain it for a particular audience, whether that's someone that's very intimate with the technology, or someone, that's maybe they don't even know what Kubernetes is. They don't even know what Docker is. So being able to explain that is really important. And so she said, okay, well, you're clearly passionate about education. You love helping people. So that's your vibe. So when you jump on camera, you're not necessarily aggressive. You're not trying to be funny. You're just leaning into your natural values. And then that means when you start practicing and you learn some of the technical things, you're blending that technique with just who you naturally are. And that's the difference between when you watch someone and it just feels completely normal, like you're having a conversation, versus when you see someone and they're maybe struggling because they're trying to be this thing that they need to be, like maybe one of their favorite YouTube influencers, instead of just leaning into, well, maybe I'm quiet, maybe I'm reserved, and I can make that work. So that's probably one of the most valuable things that I've learned is you've got to present in a way that just feels like you. And then there's also other things, like when you're on camera presenting, you've got to up your energy. You just have to, because otherwise it comes across, it doesn't have that punch. So one thing I recommend to people when they're getting into this is when you're presenting, or even when you're doing a voiceover, do the craziest, most high energy, ridiculous, over the top, markety style voiceover that you can. Like, just so crazy that you'd never even show anyone. You'll watch that back, and then you'll realize that actually the energy is nowhere near as high as what you thought. Then you just bring it back down, maybe 10 or 20%, and you find that sweet spot. So it's really just a lot of practice. But if you're not comfortable, you're never going to have the impact with your video that you want to.
Damn, there is like, first, thanks for sharing that. Like, so many good advices, so many good tips. There's a lot to unpack on that. I don't even know where to start. Let's just start by something a little bit unrelated to everything you just said about the fact that you said like tech is hard. Thanks for saying that. I've been saying that all the time. Like, technology is hard. Being a software developer is hard. Um, Even more now than it used to be, because like there's so many technologies out there. There's so many products. There, like, things change so fast. There is like too many sources of information, which sometimes is like too much, is like not enough. It's not easy to be a software developer, and I'm saying that as someone who is a software developer for the last 20 plus years. Obviously, I'm not the best out there, but I think I'm not the worst also as a developer. And I feel it's not easy. It's fun. I like it. It's rewarding to a certain extent, depending on what you do, but it's not easy. So, super long answer or comment to say like thank you for saying that, because I talked to a lot of like junior, and unfortunately there's a lot of like senior people that say, oh yeah, that shit easy, or oh that's easy, oh this is, or and I don't think it's the way to go. Yes, maybe it's easy for you, but it was not at the beginning. And if it was, good for you, but it's not like that for most people. So like showing that like even people with experience like acknowledge the fact that like tech is not easy. I think it's important. I think we should do that a lot more. So yeah, that was just a small part of everything you said, but like that really like talk to me, because I try to say this as often as I can. I do not care if people think that I'm a shitty developer when I say that, but I think we should say that because it's true. And it's important that like junior people hear this from more senior people that are doing tech for a longer time, so they don't feel like imposter when they start a job and they're like, that shit is hard, or I need to work a little more during the evening just to keep up with the rest of the team, or like I should know how to do that. Like, no, like unless someone tell you, unless you made some mistakes, unless like you find a tutorial, unless you try it, and at some point you find the answer. Like there's no only truth right at the beginning. You don't need to know everything, and it's not easy. So again, super long. It's just because that like, I don't know how to say that. It's just something important to me. So that's why I'm blabbering about that for the last 10 minutes. But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I just to add on to what you said, particularly for the junior folks, like if you ask a question, don't be scared to ask, like, silly questions. Obviously, do your research so your question is hopefully an intelligent one. But if you get a response that just confuses you even more, or goes into details that you're that you don't understand, and you walk away feeling like, oh man, I'm so dumb, like I have no idea what that person just said. That's not on you, because a really good communicator will sort of be able to suss out from your question, and maybe they'll ask some probing questions, but they should be able to tailor like what they know to your level of awareness about what's being talked about. And that's probably when people get into video, and just communication in general, that's probably one thing that they don't think about. So when I do a video for clients, what's really important is not just who the target audience is. It's like, what's their level of awareness? Doppler, for example, is this someone that has no idea what secrets management even is? Do they just think .env files are fine and that's enough? So you really have to figure out, like, who am I talking to and what can I presume they know? So yeah, like that's probably the most challenging part. But that's one thing that video teaches you, is then you be really intentional about the level of detail that you go into about the product. And you also become aware of, when you're explaining something to someone for the first time, they're not ready for the details. They're not necessarily ready for the best practices and all that sort of stuff. That comes later when you know more about it. It's more like the why. This is why we have this. This is the benefits. This is what you get. And the overall process, looks something like this. So when someone feels like they get the big picture, then you're drawing them in and they're more curious. Okay, well, now that I understand the benefits and why I would use this, when I would use it, now I kind of want to know more about the details. So in the same way that would happen in a conversation, like say at a conference, it's the same way with video, but you're trying to anticipate the questions or the concerns or the objectives that the viewer would have.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I'm not a public speaker coach, or like the person that helps you for your voiceover, but I can echo everything you said before. Like, just try to be yourself, because everything else is not gonna work. So I remember when I was doing I call this like a speaker idol, when like those idol thing were popular, and it was basically like a kind of like a little bit of a workshop where, like, first time speaker, they were talking about whatever topic they want, even if it was not technical, and I had like myself and another like experienced speaker giving them feedback to help them improve themselves. But mostly everybody they were all trying to be funny, when most of them were not. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It was just not natural. Like, for me, when I speak, I joked all the time. It's like, it's part of my personality. Like, maybe not during the show, but like when I give talks, like I make jokes, and it's just natural, because this is who I am in real life. But everybody wants to be funny, and as you said, it's okay if you are not. It's okay if your personality is different. You do not need to be funny, and I think it applies for everything. Like, just keep trying to be yourself. And I think this is how you're going to be successful. Obviously, there is things that you can change a little bit, tweak a little bit, improve a little bit, like you've done, like from your voiceover. But just wanted to echo that, because that's the other really important things. From, like, everything was amazing from what you said in the previous comment, but I just wanted to echo that, because it's one of the tip that I give quite often too, when I talk to people who want to start public speaking. Like, just be yourself, and don't try to copy like a speaker you like, or someone else, if it's not you, if it's not natural, because that's not going to work. That's not going to work with people. You're not going to be able to connect with people, and as much as you like it or not, it's all about connection. I'm annoying with that today, but like, it's really always all about connection. We've talked to a lot. I guess we could talk to a lot more. I still have a question for you, because we didn't talk that much about the developer relations part of your journey. Obviously, I feel like what you're doing right now is still developer relation. You talk to developers,
Mm.
you create content for developer, mostly your DevOps people, but still you had the title at some point in your career. Like you work at SourceGraph. Also, oh, you were also technical training instructor, but after that, you work also, yeah, oh, at Doubler. So this is what I was
Mm.
missing. I was looking at your LinkedIn because I have like a really bad memory for those things. Um, would you like to share a little bit about your specific experience as developer advocate to those companies?
Yeah. So when I joined, both of those companies, it was very early days, and there was only a handful of people. And the really challenging thing when it's an early stage startup, and B, when you're the only DevRel, is it's very difficult for both of the company and you to figure out what you should be doing on a given day. And I think that can be exciting sometimes because you're doing, so many different things. But it can be challenging to sometimes explain the value that you're adding, because a lot of the time you're doing things like voice of the customer. You're digging into the product. You're understanding how the product can be better. You're trying to write documentation. But then if you're doing
Oh, I think we lost you,
that stuff, maybe
Ryan.
you need to be attending conferences. Oh,
You're back.
all right.
I lost you when you
I'm
were
back.
starting to talk about the fact that it was challenging, like to define your day to day, what you're going to do, and I lost you after that.
Yeah. So the figuring out like what you're meant to be doing day to day and the biggest impact that you can have on the company is really hard when it's an early stage startup, because there's 20 different things as a
Yeah,
DevRel that you should be doing. And even when you're a DevRel with a team, I think there's still an aspect of that. So I had to be willing to wear many hats. I think one thing I could have definitely done better at those companies is define more things in terms of projects. So I'm typically someone that says yes to everything, and that can be really great sometimes.
yeah.
Um, but when you've got a project, at least it's something that you can say, right, we did this thing, and this was the result. And for a lot of you listening, that might sound like, well, of course. But when you're a DevRel and you're being pulled in all of these directions, that's actually really hard to say. I understand that we need to do that, but if I do lots of little things, it's sometimes harder to have a big
Yeah.
impact. So that was one of the things I learned. And eventually in your DevRel journey, you'll either be drawn to something that you really enjoy. Hopefully that's something you're also naturally good at as well. But you'll probably find yourself being drawn to like one particular area. And at some point for your career progression, it's probably a good idea to like lean into that strength that you have and become more specialized in that thing. So that would sort of be my general advice based on my experience.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, and for me, it was always video. Being on, whether it was a webinar or something like that, or producing videos. That was also something that I saw a lot of other DevRels not doing. So in terms of differentiating myself, that was also something that I wanted to lean into. So if you're a DevRel person and you're watching this, you absolutely can do video, and it's just so valuable. It's so valuable for
Yes.
the company. So I just really encourage everyone to give it a go. And I would also be happy to answer any questions, via email. There's also a bunch of tips that I'm going to share as well. That you can share with your listeners, because it's a great thing that'll enhance your life, enhance your career. And it's something that, that most DevRel people aren't doing, but I wish they'd get into.
Yeah, and as much as like a lot of things we do as a developer advocate and DevRel is public, like sharing on social media, writing blog article, like helping and that whatever the Slack community, like all those things are public, and at some point, depending on a company, you can share them to potential employers. I feel like what is the most amazing thing to share is videos that you created or recording of your talk, because it really show you as a communicator. It shows you, like, it shows people like how you prepare for something you create. If you use slides, like what are the slides, how you define or created your demo, what you're presenting, how you present, how to react, depending on like if it's let's say it's not just a video, not just a video, but it's not a video, but like it's a recording of the talk. If the questions are recorded, also how you interact with the people. So like the visual presence that you can have in the video, whether you create a video tutorial, whether it was like, as I said, a recording of a talk, I feel like it's what can show the most value, the biggest part of your personality, and what you can bring to the table to a potential employer. So I'm not saying the rest is not good. I'm just saying like it's a personal opinion. I think that videos can show a little bit more that would have a bigger impact in, let's say, potential employers, next customers, potential partners, even in your actual job. Or as you said, like you were talking about, people that saw your video and this is why they decided to join the company. So it doesn't help just yourself and your personal brand. It helps the company at different levels, not just promoting the product. So I totally agree with what you're saying. And in addition to public speaking, videos is probably like the things I like to do the most also when it comes to developer relation. With that said, we always have like a demo part of the show. I know you wanted to, you already started to do that during the discussion, but I know you have like other tips and tricks you wanted to share with people about, creating like great technical content. And I know we talked a lot about videos because like when I think about you, I think about videos, but I know you said like you also do blog posts and you also write, like create other type of contents. So feel free to share about all the type of contents you want to share about. But I would switch now to the demo part because, as I said, as much as I love talking to you, and people are listening, so I guess we're not that bad, and it's interesting. Also, like the part of the show where people can bring really concrete things that can help you, that can help them in their day to day. So the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So I just click on the present button, do I?
Yep.
All right.
Hopefully it's going to be good. We forgot to test it before the show. Hopefully you're going to have the permission to do that. And the internet connection is going to keep with screen.
All right, here we go.
Awesome. Let me add this to the show.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to break this up into two parts. I've got sort of a Google Docs here, which sort of goes through, I think, the most important things that I've learned in, ever since I've been producing video. Obviously, there's not going to be time to go through this, but this is something that, that you'll get. And so I think what I'll do is I'll just pull out the most important things here, and then I'll show you some examples from, what have we got? Why isn't this working? From some of the projects I've worked on and the more sort of technical things when it comes to screen recording and that kind of stuff. So I think we've talked a lot about this. One of the most important things is, I think, when you're on camera, it's really natural to just be self-conscious. What helps me is things that put me in a good mood, or for instance, someone that I know that would listen to whatever I had to say with great interest. So for me, that's my mum. Whether it's talking about music or my personal life or business or whatever, my mum is such a good listener. And so whatever gets you into a mode where you're presenting and you feel like what you're presenting is valuable, that will help you present. And the more you can make it about your audience, that also just takes the focus off you. When you're focused on them, you want to be great for them, help them learn things. That just helps you present.
I like that. And it's super awkward to watch yourself on the video for the first time. Oh, I was good actually for the first couple of times, or listen to you and say like, yeah, my voice is not as good as I thought it was, because it's kind of like different hearing it when you speak, like right now what I'm doing. And it, like if I watch the recording of the show after that, it's a little bit awkward. So as you said, like don't spend too much time like looking at that. Like you probably did a good job and you're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah. It is really hard because it's also good not to compare yourself to others. Like one of my favorite presenters is a guy called Maguire Brannan, who used to be at Webflow, and he is just phenomenal. He's so funny. His comedic timing is amazing. His skills are next level. Like I'm self-taught mostly, but when you compare yourself to others, it can really kind of get you down. So, he's done probably hundreds of videos. So when you're just starting out, be gentle on yourself. I wish I could have given myself that advice in the past and even now.
Yeah, I agree. Jason was saying using your mom is a bad example for most. Lol. But it made a lot of sense. I mean, like, I know you get the gist, Jason, but yeah, no, my mom
Whoever.
never, yeah, my mom never understood what I was doing for work, but we got the point. I just said it was a funny comment. Oh, either Ryan is still like really laughing and not moving at all, or we lost him. Folks, do not be afraid. Ryan just moved to a new place. He doesn't have like internet connection, proper internet connection yet. So he is stuttering, and live being live, when you do a live show on your phone, on the smartphone, it can get you in trouble like right now. So while we wait for Ryan to come back, which is usually pretty fast, but not right now, I think we lost him completely. You know what? I'm gonna read like the tips that he has on his Google Docs because it's probably pretty good. Find your style. You're not a news anchor. He talked about it. Oh no, I lost the Google Doc and Ryan. But that was a good tips. Like really like trying to be yourself. It's what we talked about before. I have also, let me find an article that I wrote about that, about speaking. I wrote something about that recently for new public speaker. How to speak. I'm just going to share the link. I'm not going to read you all that. It's here, heading a banner. It's fred.dev public speaking. So I have like a couple of tips about, like, it's mostly when you speak at conferences, at meetup, but those are still great tips. And on that note, we have Ryan
Finally
back.
back. I'm tethering. Sorry, everybody, but that was a doozy.
Oh, okay, I love that, Jason. Ryan's mom was calling.
See, Jason's obviously, he's got more of the humor down. All right, I'll try and push through these in case it goes down again. Really quickly on the presenting stuff, if you're going to be doing more video content for your job, reading from a teleprompter while appearing just to speak normally is a superpower. So yeah, I'll kind of leave that for the video stuff. With voice, sometimes when I'm on Zoom, I forget to do this, but smile with your voice. Like if you don't smile and you present versus when you smile, it feels really unnatural at first, but not only does it change the way your voice sounds and how you present, it also relaxes you. So that's probably the most important tip I can give you for your voice. Stuff like that, if you Google, voice warm-ups, hydration, all that kind of stuff, you'll come across lots of good voiceover tips. The one that I think is actually the most important is relaxing your tongue. This is going to look ridiculous and sound ridiculous, but if you essentially stick your tongue out all the way, like in front of your mouth, and then maybe just say like a paragraph, it helps to just relax your everything in your mouth. And then it's much easier just to speak. So that's probably one of the big tips. And then just consistently practice. You just got to practice. For scripting, it should sound like you. Otherwise, it's not going to sound like you. So if you write something really marketing and it's good on paper, you'll find that when you actually read that back or present it to camera, you're like, oh, that's so weird. I would never say that. So with video in particular and voiceovers, it's got to be in your style. Otherwise, when you try to read it, it's going to sound like you're reading. That's one of the hardest things when it comes to scripting.
I heard a lot of people that say, "Oh, I don't script. I just like go like freestyle, and I'm gonna do my stuff." And I do this quite often, to be honest. But the reality is that I spend a lot more time editing my video when I don't have a script. So it may be a little bit awkward at the beginning, especially if you're used to like public speaking, let's say at conferences where you don't read stuff and you move to the video content, and having to read feel maybe unnatural at the beginning, or at least even if you don't read, like try to define like what you want to talk about and like the biggest point, because you're going to save plenty of time after. But I agree with the teleprompter. I bought one at some point in my life, and I was like, it's not working for me. So it's just easier to do it without.
Another tip on that is everyone will have their own style. If you are freestyling and it's something that you'll edit, like with a loom, it might just be a quick demo and you pump out the loom and that's it. If it is something that you're going to go back and edit and you are sort of freestyling it, make sure that like there are clear starts and stops. What I've noticed when people are getting into this is I'll say something like, in this step, we're going to do this. Now let's transition to this and what you want to be thinking about. So when you want to go back and edit and maybe make things more succinct, there's not a break where you can sort of, make that edit and, re-record maybe what you did on screen. So just make sure if there's a full stop, or in your mind, if there's a full stop, like just take a pause.
And it makes sense because like people think that like you should not have silent moments too, but like it's not true. Like it's okay if you pause, and it gave times to people to assimilate the information you're sharing. So it's okay if there's like small silent moment. Like we see that when we speak. Like I do this even myself after speaking for a long time. Like you watch recording of my talks and you hear me say like and making some noise to try to fill the void while I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. And actually those are words for it's not the end of the world, but those are words for the audience that like you just like take a small pause and you start again, and that's going to help you for editing. I had so many problems when I started to do videos because I was like, oh, I did a mistake and I was starting to talk again, or I didn't have like any like small break between like the things that I was saying, and it was just a pain to edit. So
on the screen recording tips, I'll just kind of jump in. You can get really creative with things like code snippets. It's also great to work with a designer where there is transparent parts of the screen, just because you can do stuff like this where there's motion graphics, but then you've also got screen recordings as well. So as budget and time allows, look at other videos that people are doing and kind of get inspired and figure out stuff. This is something that I was kind of this code thing was really cool. So when it's hard to have code demos that animate, and you can do things like you can have all of the code in a file, and then you delete it all, and then you reverse it, and that can sort of that can look really good. But I didn't want to have to do that. So all this is VS Code, and I took a screen recording of obviously like just this, because I wanted to look like an editor, right? You're trying to show developers the exact environment that they would be working in. And the way this works is it just uses, I think Mac OS it's just called automation. And so all it's doing is just sending the key commands to Visual Studio Code. And there is a little bit of like code in there where it like pauses and things like that. But yeah, just like little tricky things like that, because then you don't have to worry about syntax highlighting and all of that sort of stuff. So that's kind of like one cool thing. On the other thing, for screen recording, you want to try and make things like as succinct as possible when it's a highly produced video. So a lot of like this video for Doppler is, I'm still demonstrating.
Oh, so I'm still were you showing us something on our screen?
Oh, it's not. Oh no, that's right. No. I just realized that that you haven't been
when
able
you
to
disconnected.
Because I disconnected. Oh right. Okay, sorry everybody. For the most part, I wasn't, but just then I was. So let's go back. Select entire screen. Okay, so I'll just really quickly recap what I was saying. So that's the automation. That's just sending the text to Visual Studio Code.
And
And
just about
sorry.
Oh, I think I was losing you, but I was going to say just about that, like the code where you like recorded in VS Code. Like so many people are like, oh yeah, I should live code because like that show my
Oh,
skills and shit. And I'm like, no, there like personally, I think there is nothing worse than someone live coding, unless it's like it's a small snippet, because like you're prone to no matter how good you are, you're prone to mistakes, and I'm not
yeah,
using my precious time to look at you making mistakes
exactly.
unless it's about like a debugging tool or like it's related to what you want to show. But like no, what I want to see is like working code. I want to see like how you went through that point. So I like the idea of what you've done, like recorded the code and being sure like, hey, that's going to be a perfect thing, and there's that animation too, so you still have a feeling that like you're coding, even if in reality you're not during the video. You've done that before, you just like recorded your screen. So um
Yeah,
yeah, I just wanted to share that because that's a pet peeve of mine. When you go to a talk and like the person spend like 1/3 of the talk trying to debugging what they wanted to show, like yeah, it's like
yeah.
good, not good for you, not good for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of beautifully leads into my next point is, the other reason why you want to do something like this um, is the focus is on demonstrating like, how things come together. But you need to do that as fast as possible, because every second that goes by is the second that someone might drop off and stop
Mhm.
watching your video. And so I always try and balance, like, I never want to skip entire parts. I never want to make a process seem like, oh, it's just 2 steps when it's actually, 6 steps. But you always take like every opportunity to, I often speed things up. Because yeah, they don't need to see me like type in a password, character by character. So you get really good at knowing this is something where I have to show in real time. This is something where I can kind of like speed through the process to demonstrate as much as I can in a shorter time period as possible. What you'll also notice too is the more that you get into this and you do try and condense things down, the more editing you have to do.
Yeah.
So that's just part of the process, unfortunately. And this is for like a very polished video. If you're just doing a tutorial about how to do something, you won't need to go to this extent of editing. But it was just to show folks that what kind of can look very natural. You're just like watching and you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Um, there's a lot of stuff kind of like going on, in the background. Um, I guess just really quickly too on the presentation side of things, because I do this, for a living now, I am putting in a lot of effort in terms of, the video quality. This is shot on a mirrorless camera. There's the standard sort of lamp in one corner, the fern in, another corner. It's like, oh God, we really need someone on video on YouTube that's got another plant and a lamp. But it doesn't really matter. All people are focused on is you. And the reason that we've got things like the light in the background, it's not to try and look cool. It's more just that you want to separate yourself, the subject, from what's going on like in the background. Um, another good tip that I wasted so many hours, probably days on this, is I would see YouTubers with this like super cool background and there's LEDs and there's lights and they're lit up and that's dark, and I tried to emulate that and it's all nice and blurry because it's like, oh yeah, that's the look I need to go for. But it wastes so much time, and you really don't need like that bokeh effect where you're blurring everything out.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. All that tool is doing is that, like, if this was perfectly in focus, it doesn't put the attention on me. But when I'm in focus and everything else isn't, my eyes are just naturally drawn to this. So don't worry if you're doing something and the stuff isn't blurred in the background, as long as it's not cluttered and it's not capturing the viewer's
Like
attention.
mine, which is like my background is really cluttered. But at the same time, like as much as I like those, let's call them fancy background with like lights and stuff and like beautiful shells with like nice things behind people, it kind of like remove a little bit of what you said. It removed the focus, but not the camera focus, but my focus and my attention is for a couple of seconds, maybe a minute or two on the background, looking at what people they have. Like there's a new light.
Yeah.
Like I have ADHD, so there's a light flashing. Like sometimes I'm gonna like, even if I listen to you, I'm not going to absorb the information because like my focus is
Yeah.
something else. uh, your background right now, it's professional. It's, I'm going to say, boring, but not in a negative way.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's the goal. The goal is so we can focus on you. I mean, like, there's a lamp and a plan. It took me 1 second. I do not care anymore about that. I care about like
Exactly.
you speaking. And
Yes.
I as I said, as much as I love those nice background, like, they took the time to choose the right thing, and it's like kind of like a professional setting background. I think it
Mm.
removed some things from the videos, but I know it's also quite
Yeah.
popular, but it may just be like a personal opinion.
No, I think like everything that you said is so spot on. The other thing too that I sort of realized is the way that you look on video, like the general thing, is contextual. So if I was doing something as a drummer or a musician, maybe I would have like a studio background, or it would be like darker, because that's for like a creative audience. When you're doing something for work, and particularly if it's like educational in nature, you want everything to be bright, because that's how it is in a meeting. Like imagine if you went into like someone's office in a sales call and it was like really, really like dim lighting. That would be so weird. That would be so awkward.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have that influencer, that YouTuber influencer, cool look. Just make sure that you're really well lit. It also just helps you just look better on camera. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest tips I can give. Just make it look, just well lit. That just helps the energy.
That's amazing.
Something else I can really quickly show is just motion graphics. So, when you're watching something, because of social media, we have very short attention spans. And so what that means is that when I'm doing like pieces to camera, that I do that because normally there might be a point that I want to communicate, and it makes sense for me to engage at the camera. Maybe it's to emphasize the importance of something. I can't really demonstrate something on screen, because if I'm explaining why something is important and I'm demonstrating something, well, people's attention is now going in two different parts. So whatever is on screen should line up with what your voice is doing. But yeah, when it comes to sort of, composing your shots, it's good to have, a little bit of, talking head. But if this was 30 seconds, that would kind of be a bit weird. And so, somewhere between, 10 seconds, then even with the screen recording, then you switch to something else. Then you might go to a motion graphic. And on the motion graphic front, motion graphics are really good to emphasize something where you can't really demonstrate. So it might be a visual concept, like, for example, this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're showing visually, like if I say, SCIM is syncing users to blah, blah, blah. But when you've got a motion graphic, it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't need things animating and flying in and all that sort of stuff. It's just a visual accompaniment to help the words that you're saying, make sense in the mind of the viewer. And in terms of motion graphics, this is done in After Effects by an amazing designer I work with. And now we've switched to using something called Jitter, which is sort of like a web version, and it can't do all of the crazy stuff that After Effects can do, but it's something approachable that anyone can start using.
What's the name?
And so it's called Jitter, Jitter. And yeah, it's a bit of a game changer, because it just means you can do, like, for instance, for this video, everything is done in Jitter. So yeah, you might look at that and go, oh, it's a bit plain, but it really does, for the most part, what it needs to do. So, just really subtle animations. It doesn't have to be in your face, because the more the animations are sort of crazy, that's taking away from, what you want people to actually be, focusing on.
I agree so much with that. I'm big on the team. Keep it simple, stupid. So it's nice to have a little bit of animation, but like when it's too much, it's exactly too much.
Yeah. I know we've been talking for ages, so I'll fly through this. Gear is nowhere near as important as you think. And what I wish I did back in the day is first invested in lighting. So this is my sort of current setup here. This is, and I've got the gear list in here, so I won't go through that. But it's a good quality light. Lighting is probably the most important thing, along with the microphone, for you to invest in. If you've got good lighting and you sound good, as long as you've got a recent laptop or just a webcam, that is all you need, because your voice is the most important thing. And this is all you need. That's going to not only light up me, but it's going to light up the entire room, because I'm not going for that moody sort of Rembrandt lighting. So yeah, lighting is such an important thing to invest in. For the microphone, I'm using just this, which is a Rode Video Mic NTG. It's USB, so I don't have to muck around with audio interfaces. And the other thing is it's a shotgun mic, and I like to keep it out of camera, because if I've got the mic in the camera in shot, it's kind of distracting. Where if it's down here, I can't see my camera right now, but if it's out of shot, it just means it's more like, if we were having a conversation. So to each their own, but that's why I always use shotgun mics, because I want people just to be focusing on me and not getting distracted by, the logos that might be in the shot, or what microphone I'm using, or any of that kind of stuff.
I like that. I obviously, as you can see, I don't do that, but it's because I need my mic to be like close, like I don't have a shotgun mic.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I move, if I want to keep like a good quality and a good audio level, I need to move the mic. So it's also a little bit of pain in the ass. So and as you said, I really like that. I'm learning too. I mean, like, it remove the attention from me, and I like to have the attention on me. So maybe I should review the mic I'm using.
Yeah. I mean, and some of this is all just, it's very, people will sort of develop their own thing. But I guess what I'm saying is, don't feel like you have to have a super expensive dynamic mic on shot. That doesn't say I'm a professional. What says, and it's not even about being professional. It's about, I think, being attractive. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about aesthetics. Someone just being themselves and presenting in a way where, yeah, like, I get what that person's saying. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that product sounds cool. That is what is important, not how crispy you look and not the blurry background and all that sort of stuff. So for those that are thinking of going down the getting like a mirrorless camera, if you're doing this as your full-time gig and you sort of want that sort of shot where, this sort of thing, yeah,
Oh,
I probably do need
lost
to
you.
invest in a mirrorless camera. Oh no.
Yeah, I think we get the gist of it. Really speedy at the end, but like, you don't need to invest like in a mirrorless camera.
Yeah,
You were
because
saying,
it's, people see this and they're like, oh, but the mirrorless camera, is so good. It's like, yeah, but you've got to worry about white balance. You need to worry about depth of field. There's so many things that will take your attention away from presenting, from your voice, from scripting. And so if you want to go down this route, it's a long-term investment. And I really recommend getting like a camera, like a videographer, to help you with this. They'll guide you with the gear that you need to buy. They'll help you set things up. And then once you get things set up, I think I've got this as a tip as well. You want a predictable environment. So with me, even though it's daytime right now, and when I took this shot, obviously it was nighttime, it's really easy for me just to like dial up the light here to get some sort of consistent look. It just makes it easier, because when you sit down to film, you don't want to be thinking about your lighting and where's my microphone and you just want to be sitting down and you're just thinking about your audience and you're just communicating value. So don't let the gear be a distraction from connecting with your audience. And just, I guess, if there was something I was going to finish on, in terms of someone said, oh, like, Ryan, do you think your videos are high quality? I don't think it's up to me to say that. But for me, all quality is it's about removing the distractions and, things that detract. So your message about the product and what you're talking about shines through. So, a bad quality audio where it's, really echoey, or if I'm not really looking at the camera and I'm, whatever, those are things that the viewer is going to pick up. And they're not going to necessarily like consciously do this, but subconsciously they're sort of like distracting from what you're doing. So that's all quality is in terms of video. Someone watches it and they're just like, oh, yeah, I get what that guy's saying. That makes sense. I'm going to go try the product now. That's a high quality video. Obviously, there's lots of things that, that have to come into that to help that. But all you're really doing is just removing distractions. So what you're saying really gets through to whoever's watching.
And Ryan, I love that you were really humble about that. But like I believe that your videos are high quality videos. And one thing that I found wonderful is that everybody can create videos. What I found a little less wonderful is that not everybody can create like great quality videos. So if you need someone to help you create great content, please ask Ryan. I mean, like sometimes, sometimes you think it's not because you can do something that you should do it. Like sometimes, and actually most of the time, it's worth it to pay a professional for their expertise about video creation. So you're going to get more views, you're going to get more return on investment. So yes, you have to spend money at the beginning to pay that professional to do the work, but like the return on investment, I can guarantee is always worth it. So think about Ryan if you want to have great video quality.
Yeah, I appreciate the plug. One thing I'm starting to do more is, because I also push a lot of the things that we've been talking about, like that human connection, that person on camera. If I'm doing particularly a work for a client and I don't work there, I really encourage them, whether it's the Devrel person or the marketing person or the CEO, it doesn't really matter who it is, but it's like, you work at the company. It often makes much more sense for you to represent what you're, the product, as opposed to me. Obviously, I'm always happy to do it. And so part of what I'm getting into is coaching on things like presenting, on the voiceover, how to set up their video, how to set up their lighting, because ultimately I think that's a really good investment for that team, to be able to produce their own content. And obviously when I'm mentoring them and coaching them, that just massively speeds up the process. And so while at the moment, the majority of my work is producing content, because I like helping people and educating, I think I can see my business maybe even, progressing to predominantly to the coaching and the education part. Because if I could help more Devrel people embrace video and add more value to what they're doing, that would just make me super happy, just for all of the reasons that we've talked about. People love video, allowing, it demonstrates the product in action, and in the right context, that's just fantastic.
I like that. And I know we talked a lot about videos, but like you create all sort of contents too. So if people want to help or coaching, they can reach out to you for other type written content too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Ryan, was a pleasure again talking to you. I mean, again, because we talked before, but like, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Also, a lot of great tips, and I mean, this is what I love with the show, because I got expert in different fields, and I'm doing videos for a long time, and you share a lot of tips that I'm like, yeah, I need to rethink some of the things that I'm doing, and just because it's kind of like my job to do that, so it's why it's worth the time for me to do that. So everybody at home, don't change everything you're doing. Go with small step, but like obviously, if it's your job, if you're a developer advocate, if you produce video content, the tips that you share were super helpful. So thanks a lot for sharing your expertise. Thanks a lot for being on the show, even if it was really early for you. And thanks everybody for watching the show, people being live. You were a little bit quiet today, so thanks Jason for the comments. That was fun. And if you watch the recording and you have any questions whatsoever, please ask. Go on ryanblunden.com. Was it .com? I shared .dev. I shared
.dev. Yeah.
I shared the link like 20 times during the show and I cannot remember. So go there if you have any questions, if you want to work with Ryan, or comment directly on the show, and I can relay any question or comment to Ryan here. So thanks again for being on the show. Any last word you want to share with the audience before we go offline?
I think, nothing I haven't already said, but just that doing video will help you in so many aspects in life, and developing your voice looking at your values is also just an amazing thing to do for personal growth. So I hope everyone's inspired to at least give video a try for them.
Awesome. I have to release videos in like 2-3 weeks for some of the stuff we're working on. So maybe I'll ping you and it's like, okay, now like destroy my shit or tell me if I did something not too bad. So anyway, thanks again for sharing your expertise. That was really nice talking to you, and thanks everybody, and see you in 2 weeks for the next Devrel show. Have a good rest of the day, folks, or good